Hello there, it's Cora, and I'm here with Yoga Bloom Lab Online, Props 101. We're continuing with the props on how to work with joints. So in this session, I'm going to be concentrating on the pelvis, on the hip. I've gone over concave-convex law in a previous session. And I want to look at the pelvis and how it connects to the spine and how to save this area, the sacrum, right? We tend to have a lot of issues here in the sacral area in yoga practice because we do a lot of asymmetrical poses. So you can see that the sacrum is on the bottom of the spine. So it has to turn and have a little bit of movement to walk. Yes, just shifting like so. So in here, there has to be just a little bit of wiggle room, right? A little bit. But if there's too much, then we have instability. If it's too rigid, then we can have other issues because it can pull on the ligaments. Too lax, it's too long, it doesn't create stability. Too holding on doesn't let go, doesn't have the ability to let go and accept and receive the impact, right, of life, the impact of the forces on the spine, the impact of forces on our heart-mind. So I've said many times before that this sacrum is like the sacred bone. In German it's the Krückspine, crossbone. So this area here between the two ilium can get very torqued when we separate the legs and move them one to the front, one to the back, one to the right, one to the left. Yeah. And in yoga we do a lot of that action. We do more about abduction, about moving away from, right? We do a little bit of, we do quite a lot of sagittal movement, but we don't really cross the midline. We don't really cross Garudasana, where we cross the legs. There's probably a couple other poses. Ardha Matsyendrasana, a couple of the twists. But in most situations, we're not crossing the leg. So there's a lot of torque on the back here, right? There's a lot of compression. So one of the things that's difficult for us to see in alignment is what's not in front of us. It's always difficult for us to see what's not in front of us, but particularly in the body. So if I can see my hand in front of me, that's great. And I can see my foot, right? But if my foot is behind me, right, then I can't see it. So then I may not know what it's doing. So if it's sickled like so, right, I might see that now and be able to flex it. But perhaps if it's sickled behind my head, then I wouldn't be able to see it. Or if it's behind my body, right, just behind me. If it's just behind me, I no longer see it. If it's in front of me, I can see what my foot is doing. But from this back foot, I can't see. So with a lot of the asymmetrical poses, with one leg doing one thing, another leg doing another thing, the pelvis has to support the whole body. And if the pelvis is in any way distorted, then it can affect the whole spine and the head, and it can create a lot of pressure, tension, stress. That could create neck, shoulder, forearm, wrist, hand, brain, heart, misalignment. So I want to show some ways that we can work with a chair and a wall. It's not too heavy of a prop. Well, I always say it's not that heavy with a prop, and then there's a lot of props. But predominantly I'm going to be working with a chair, a blanket over the chair, and a wall. So a lot of these you can do. A lot of them are very, very, very difficult and are much more extreme than they look. So I just want to give that caveat before we begin, that some of the things, especially when the foot is up on the back of a chair, it can be quite a lot on the hamstring and on the knee and on the Achilles tendon. So just recognize that you're always going to your level and you're always looking to not go to the limit, but to stay within a range of what's comfortable for the body. So, with the idea of saving the sacrum, aligning the hip, aligning the spine, and saving the heart-mind. So, let's sit for a few moments before we get started. And just get settled, moving from the thinking brain to the being in this place of yoga. So just come into a comfortable position and we'll just sit for a few moments. Namo tassa bhavata sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhavata sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhavata sambuddhassa. Buddham namasami. So just get into a comfortable position. We'll just sit for a few moments. So remember, the first step is to get the alignment of your body just right. And then settle into it and begin to relax deeply, consciously. In order to get the alignment of your body just right, you might want to wriggle around and let whatever is touching the ground to settle down. Get grounded, rooted, planted into the earth. Let yourself settle down. Find your breath. Climb inside your own breath. And then relax. and then coming back. Okay then, the hip. So I'm going to show some things with the chair predominantly and the blanket, okay? So, I have a chair here, and I'm just going to put a mat piece over it, just because I have one. It just helps the blanket to not slide. So I have one blanket here, that might be enough. If you had somebody taller, you might have to put more blankets. For comfort, I'm going to put another blanket, just so that it doesn't hit right in the groin. And then I can just bend over and walk the legs back. And just come into a variation of downward facing. Of course, you'll have to adjust with the height of the blanket and the body in front of you. Another variation that you can do with the same idea is you can place a bolster onto the chair and walk the feet back and just hug the bolster. So it can be kind of a restorative shape, right? You could hold on to the chair legs and just getting that sensation that the pelvis is supported evenly. And from the pelvis turning and the legs just descending. So the spine can receive the length. So the legs are almost weightless. And as the body just pours down, they can just support onto the bolster. As though this whole line of length could just pour and lengthen. To come out, you could just place your hands, perhaps stay here for a moment, getting as much length, even with the bum supported. Send the energy of the tailbone backwards, the crown of the head forward, as though the spine itself were just shooting in two directions at one time, just lengthening, both forward and backward. Just here, with the pelvis supported, feeling the evenness across the back. The evenness, if you feel that one leg might not be hitting or the other, you can just begin to see where can you find that evenness of the pelvis. So you're just on the chair, supported. And then coming out. Turning the chair around, you could come against a wall. And with your bum against the wall and your feet forward, you can take the chair and come into a downward facing position. Again, you could take the bolster, place the bolster on the chair, again with the bum back, the legs forward, and just support the head on the bolster. Now, what happens is, with the bum supported from the back, you can feel the evenness of the pelvis. And again, following that concave-convex law, you can take the pelvis and move it up and over, right? As though this pelvis is going to go up and over the femurs, up and over the legs. And just rest here. If you have somebody that hyperextends quite a lot, you can just have them bend slightly, creating more length in the back. And also if the hamstrings are very tight, they may not be wanting to, if you have a back that is restricted by the hamstrings, just bend the legs so the pelvis can turn. It's more efficient in this position to not push on the hamstring in here, but bend and then rotate the pelvis, getting the length in the spine. At the same time, you can tell the buttock to move up, as though the buttock cheeks could move up the wall, as though these were moving up. Creating a nice support again for the pelvis. Now from here, if you wanted to add a shoulder, you could just reach the arms up and drop the head. With the arms up and the head down, you can create space in the back of the neck. Again, all of this is very even and level in the pelvis. It's as though we're taking the pelvis and just creating a straight line across and allowing that pelvis to just maintain the integrity of the alignment of it sitting upon itself. And of course, you could support with a block if you didn't have a bolster. I would suggest supporting something on the head. You could also build up blocks. Having the head supported, the pelvis supported by the wall, gives a nice extension to the spine, allowing this torso to receive the action of the pelvis rolling over the legs. Now, in the same way, we're now going to take the chair and I'm now going to take the chair and I'm going to fold it into the folded chair position. And what we're going to do now is we're going to use the chair and in this folded position and use it right in the hip, as though we're going to just be able to control the chair with the pelvis. So you see I'm taking the chair like so, backwards, so the seat is facing me. And then I'm just taking it into my pelvis, and I'm just leaning down. Again, it's the same downward facing dog shape. Again, we come into this idea of creating the downward dog position. With the chair supporting the level of the pelvis, it really helps one understand if one leg is going one way or the other. It's great for injury into the hip and groin area. It's great for working with scoliosis, and you can find some distortion in that pelvis, and you can support and fill in the gap to help working to release some of the muscles. So again, if you don't like the sensation of the chair, you could take a mat piece, just place it over, place it into the hip, and then just fold. So from this position, you can see I'm just folding. Now, you can add the wall. Take the chair. And lean into it. And then hold on to the wall. You can put the chair up against the wall. And lean into it. So again, I'm using the chair. I'm leaning to create sort of a vertical, sort of at an angle Tadasana, right, or a push-up position. And I can use the wall to walk down. Supporting my hip. This can create a neck relief. Creating length in the spine. Again, moving the pelvis away as the crown of the head moves toward. I'm going to show you as though this is a full wall. Imagine this is a full wall. So I'm taking the chair. I'm going to place it at my pelvis, and then I just place my hands on the wall. So that I can send this going away and this lengthening up. In the same idea, you can take the chair and placing it into the pelvic area, into the hip. You're taking one leg forward and one leg back, and just coming into Parsvakonasana, right, intense side stretch. So I would stand here with the chair at my pelvis. I would take one leg back, one leg forward, trying to get the hips evenly supported as I lean over the chair. I can feel the hips. If they're off, right? Or if they're dropping. I have something to give me a range. Again, you can do this against the wall. One leg forward, one leg back. You can also place your hands on the wall. You can use the hands to push against, so you're lengthening this way as you're bending this way. So I'm going to push and lengthen this way. So from here, lengthen. And then as I come down the wall, I can still work with the pelvis to move the pelvis. I can come down the wall. I can hold on to the chair. And I can really work from this area to get level as I come forward. Again, to show you how it might look from the side. If this were a full wall, I would be again taking my leg forward, bending over the chair, placing my hand on the wall, walking up. So do you see how level I can get? Because if this hip is up, I have somewhere to move it. There's directionally a boundary for me to know where to move the hip. Again, you could walk down the wall or you could walk down the chair. And you could even walk down the chair. And then to come back up, you would come up the chair and step away. So now, in Warrior 1, Warrior 1 has a tendency, Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3, has a tendency to distort the hip, right? And lock the knee. Both things are ways that we can support ourselves, but they're not the best way to support ourselves. So in Virabhadrasana 3, because it's very, very difficult to know where the foot is, it's directly behind us. You saw that with the pelvis supported, I was really able to know and almost grow eyes in the back of my head, because suddenly I know where the hip is. So I know that if my pelvis, when I think it is even, but it's actually distorted, there's a chair in the way, right? Because if my pelvis were not even, I would have the chair in the way, right? To tell me what's happening. And to help me then, following the concave-convex law, to help me actually rotate the pelvis up and over the femurs so that we create health in the hip joint. So we're never pushing on the hip joint too much. So I want to show you Warrior 3 with both facing the wall and away from the wall. And then a very fun thing with the chair that's really super easy. So Warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3, has a tendency to get all lopsided, right? So this leg kind of tends to splay out, and it goes up or down, right? The knee tends to lock as we send the leg up, right? So then the back tends to, overarch as the leg goes up. So it's almost as though we're overarching up, right? In some sort of banana back way. So one of the things that we can use the chair is the same way, of course. So you're going to measure to the hip. You'll come forward and take the leg up. So you can see that taking the leg up will allow us to tell where the hip is. Now, if the hamstring is not as open, we just would be here, right? We wouldn't be up here from some distortion. And if we have the ability to lift the leg high, we know that we can, if we go too high, we know that it's not level. So you could come here to Virabhadrasana 3. Now, another way to work it that's very nice, and the same idea, is just to use the wall, right, as a boundary. So we have this boundary, and we're coming out, shooting into Warrior 3. So I would measure, so where my leg is. So this is about good for my leg, yep. So I'm going to have the chair up at the pelvis. I will bend over like so, and then I will just place my one leg underneath me and lift the other leg to the wall. Getting the alignment again, if my hip is up or down, then I'll have something to know where to get the hips level. Of course, you can try one leg at a time and see which hip. One hip may want to raise more or lower than the other. But you get to understand which hip it is and what the tendency and the nature is. Now, we just did it with the foot on the wall. I can now turn around and do the same idea, but place my hands on the wall. So I measure to my hands where I can place my hands on the wall, and then I can take my leg up into Virabhadrasana 3. And again, you can see if my hip is splayed or sunken, then I can have a measure here for the Virabhadrasana 3. If I'm in too much of a banana back here, I can lift the kidneys and fire the leg. Again, you can just change legs and see what the differential is in each leg. If this hip wants to splay more or drop, what is its tendency? Now, I promised you something really fun, and this is super duper fun, and weirdly enough, super easy. Okay, so the pose, Mayurasana, peacock. That's where you balance on your elbows and your body is like out like Superman and you're flying kind of on your elbows. So, of course, it's not the easiest pose for any of us, but it's particularly challenging for women because of breaths, right? Because where can you put the elbows? I mean, do you see I'd have to squish or get them out of the way or go under? But it's just kind of could put a lot of pressure on the upper or lower cavity of the chest. So this is a nice way to get into the idea of the pose and to really kind of just experience it and experience it in a very fun way, and allows us to just let us have a success, right? Have a success with an asana in something that's fun and easy, and it's sort of a fancy pose at the same time. And again, it helps us again to understand that leveling of the hips, the evenness, that creation of where we have the pelvis level, right? So that we're not distorting one way or the other. Because the more that we can get the hip level from here and from the front, then this triangular bone, the sacrum, is much happier, right? So, You ready for Mayurasana? So, do you remember I was coming here and I was taking the leg up? So now what we're going to do is, this is the best way to show it. I'm going to bend over the top of the chair, right? And place my hands down, and I'm going to turn them around, right? So right now, this is just a great wrist stretch, right? Just because my hands were this direction, now I'm going to turn them this direction. So I'm taking my hands from here. You could also just take them out, right? But taking them backwards. And now I'm just going to lean and lift my legs. So do you see how I'm in Mayurasana now? In flying peacock. To show you from another angle, I've got the chair, just a mat piece, and the blanket so it's not digging in. I'm just going to fold over like we were doing. Right, we were just doing this with Warrior 3. Yep. And now all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hands from this position forward to backwards. So I'm going from this to this. Right? So hands forward. And now facing backwards. I'm going to bend my elbows. And I'm going to lean on the weight and lift. This is super easy and feels very satisfying. From the back. I'm just leaning over. You'll see how much I can just, right, I can just get weight off, right? And now I just lift up. And then come on down. So, oh, I forgot one other thing in Warrior 3 I wanted to show you. If you wanted to measure your leg. I brought another chair. So if we were doing Warrior 3 where my arms, where I'm going to have my arms here, and I don't know where my leg is, I can bring in another chair, right? So that I'm coming down, and then I can take my leg over on the other chair. So I bend forward, place my hands, and then as I take my foot up, I have a measure for where the foot has to go. So again, you see that I can bend, and as I take my foot up, and also for in many situations, I have maybe a student that can't actually support the weight of their leg, or they have a very long lever. And so it's helpful to just have another chair just to help balance where the leg is and to help support the two ends of that lever. If the leg is in the middle and, you know, if your legs are if your torso is short here and the legs are very long, do you see that's going to be a difficult lever? If you're more in the middle, do you see that that's going to be an easier lever for you to have? If you're more this way, if you have a long torso, right, and shorter legs, then that's going to be perhaps easier because the legs will fly up. They just weigh less, and with the lever of the front body balancing on the fulcrum, it just allows the legs to come up. So with the long legs and a short torso, it might take more abdominal strength to actually lift the legs in a lot of poses. And so having help with support of lifting the leg doesn't kill us again in the sacral area, because it might pinch just because a lot of times we don't have the strength to lift the leg from the abdominals. Then you're going to do it from the back muscles, and then from the back muscles these will get seized up by trying to lift the leg too high. And weight bear with the, or sorry, not weight bear, but carry the load of the long lever of a long leg. So I want to show you a couple other things, just that we have time for. I am now going to take the chair and I'm going to turn it upside down. So we're taking this chair and we're now going to turn it upside down. Sorry. And I'm going to put a blanket inside the chair. And that's for my foot. So now I can put my foot in this upright position. And for now, I'm going to just face the chair. I'm going to step my right foot in and just begin to lean over onto the chair. For some people, this will be already a hamstring stretch. I can place my hands on the wall and just lean. It can also be quite an Achilles stretch, Achilles tendon stretch. So again, just if you watch, I'm placing my foot up, taking this one back, and now I'm just going to lean forward. As though I'm coming in Parsvottanasana. So from the other side, just to show you, if I had the chair this direction, I would place my foot in, take the other foot behind, and I can just lean here. And as I get more open, I can come down onto the bar. You might feel a lot in the Achilles, the gastroc, and the hamstring. Give yourself more room, distance, and it's easier for the pelvis. And if it's easier, just, you can come down as the body lets you in. And then come on up. Now in the same way, we can do Parsvottanasana, a warrior one position. In the same idea, with the chair against the wall, the blanket inside. And now we'll just have the leg bent. So you could just hold on to the top of the chair and just begin to bend. If it's too much on this back leg, just lift the heel and bend. And then descend. So this heel needs to go up, just bend, keep the heel up. It might be enough for you. You can place the hands on the wall. You can walk down the chair. Again, showing that from another angle. I'm putting my foot in the chair with the heel in the support inside the chair. So it's actually sitting in the lip of the chair. And then I'm going to bend. I'm going to bend. Right. If the wall were here, I could hold on to the wall. Or I can walk down. Again, The opportunity is always to lift that heel, bend, descend, or just keep the heel lifted, hold on to the wall, or walk down. Now, of course, you can take both feet into the lip. Just put both heels in and just begin to bend forward. For most people, right here is probably enough. Again, this is keeping the hips very even by pushing the legs, pushing the femurs in. As I walk down, there'll probably be a lot of sensation here in the calf and the gastrocnemius and the hamstring. If it's anything in the knee, you wouldn't want to keep on going. And then you could keep on coming, if it was easy on the knee, to just come into an Uttanasana variation on the chair. I made that look easier than it is, so please be aware that that can be quite intense on the gastrocnemius, the calf, and on the hamstring. And both of those could put a lot of pressure on the knee. So I wouldn't want you to put pressure on the knee. Now, I'm not sure if I have time to go through much more, but let me just go a little bit on the using a different position. We were facing forward on the chair. I'm just going to face laterally to show you some ways to work. And again, what's nice about this is as we're having the foot flexed, it sort of takes the femur and it puts it back into the hip socket, right? I know it's quite intense on the body, but at the same time it's really taking that bone and putting the bone into the bone. So you're taking that femur or the ball and putting it right into the hip socket. So we were facing before, we were facing this way, right? Now we could come into a position of Parshva Konasana, right? Right angle pose. So if you came into a position of Parshva Konasana, you'll get quite a lot of action here in this inner groin. You can hold on to the chair, just coming into Parshva Konasana. This can be quite a lot on the gastrocnemius already. You can come from the top bar, you can come onto the horizontal bar on the chair. You'll get a lot more opening in the groin. And as you come down further onto the chair, you'll have a lot of opening in the groin. Now, what also happens is with the heel lift, with the foot lifted, you'll really find the firing of these adductors. You can't really collapse. I mean, I guess you could, but you'll probably get all fired up in here, so it'll lift the back thigh. You can also take your hand to the wall and reach. If you have a handy wall rope, you can hold on to the wall rope. So to show you from another side, if I just put my foot here into the chair and I bend the leg, you see, I'm just bending the leg. So this could be Parshva Konasana. As I take the rung lower, I can get this part of the groin more. I can open the chest. Parshva Konasana. As I walk down lower, I get even more action and the side body. I can take my arm overhead and reach the wall or a rope. To come out, you again would come up and come up. Now, using the same setup of this chair, we can also do Trikonasana in the same way. Right? So again, with the foot in the chair, with the heel up, I'm just coming into, from a standing position, right? Just bending forward, just drawing that femur in, taking that pelvis with me, and then just holding on to the chair. Again, you can walk down to the horizontal rung, coming into Trikonasana. Be careful of the knee here. If it's available, you can walk down more. But if there's too much pressure on the knee, you wouldn't want to do that. But do you see again how this takes the pelvis and it just rolls it like a bull over the femur? So to show you from another angle, I would be placing my foot, I'm facing to the side, I'm placing my foot, I'm in the Trikonasana shape, right, the standing pose shape. I can take this femur and draw it in, right, drawing it into the socket. So I'm not just taking the hip swing, but I'm taking this bone and drawing the whole flesh up into the socket as I draw this flesh in and come onto the chair. Coming into Trikonasana. As the body opens, you can come down onto the horizontal rung. And if there's room and it doesn't hurt the knee at all, you can keep on coming down the chair. You'll get a lot of action in the groin. To come out, just coming up and up and up. Now, you can also come into revolved Trikonasana in the same way. Again, we'd be facing like we had started here. And now I can place my hand on the chair and turn. Again, as the body opens, I can take my hand down and turn. Again, I can take my arm overhead, use the wall, and turn. So to show you from another angle, I'll put my foot like we were facing the wall. But now I can place my hand here and take my hand on my sacrum for the revolution of Parivrtta Trikonasana. I can move my hand down as I can bring this hip back into the socket. I can move down even more, coming into Parivrtta Trikonasana. And of course, the same is true for Parivrtta Parshvakonasana, revolved right angle. You could take the foot in here, bend the leg, come into the shape. If you're by the wall, you can use the wall to turn, inviting this hip to go back. From another direction, I would be placing the foot in the heel in the edge of the chair, turning, placing my hand either on the top of the chair and just turning, or onto the lower rung. And I could take the wall here and turn. And then using the chair to come on out. I guess that's all we have time for today. I had a couple more things to show, but I think we're out of time. I also want to go through a series of how to use the chair for aligning the hips in backward bending and in some seated poses. But for now, we'll use that as the standing pose variations with the chair and the wall to level the pelvis, keep the alignment of the pelvic rim in the ASIS and the PSIS, the anterior superior iliac crest and the posterior superior iliac crest. Because once these are even and these are even, then this means that the pelvis itself is even, and it creates stability for the sacrum. The sacrum then creates stability to carry the spine, holding the head. And that will have a great deal of effect on our neck, shoulders, all down the arm, forearm, wrists, hands, fingers, brain, and heart-mind. So, with that, I hope there was something of benefit in our class today. And for now, we'll just come together and sit to end. So just come back and take a comfortable seated position. We'll just end by sitting up. So, remember, the first step is to get the alignment of your body just right. And then settle into it and begin to relax deeply, consciously. Now take a moment and notice how you feel. And then just extend your goodwill to everyone and everything, everywhere. Do what you can do now to promote peace on the planet. Drink deeply from all that life has to offer. Live thoughtfully as we walk amongst each other. And bloom wherever you are. Sabe Sate, Sukhi Hantu. May all beings be happy. Namaste. Thank you very much for coming to Yoga Bloom Lab online. I hope there was something of benefit as we examined the equanimity in the hip. See you next time. Yoga Bloom Lab online.